A man sits across from you, warm, friendly, easy smile. He asks for your hand. You give it. He tells you to close your eyes. You do. 2 minutes pass. You open them, and the building that was standing directly in front of you is gone. That man watched an entire community get killed through their dreams, one by one, night after night, by something that could not be seen, could not be tracked, could not be stopped. And the only person who knew how to end it had been dead for generations. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sky, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well too. Today, I'm bringing you 3 horrifying accounts in one episode. A secret war between 2 Nigerian tribes who weaponized black magic against each other. A man who picked up an invisible passenger at a graveyard and carried it across continents. And a widow who let the person who destroyed her family live inside her home, calling her a caretaker. Stay with me from beginning to end. I promise it's worth it. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss a single upload. Now, let's get into it. The person who shared this first account with me, I'm going to tell it exactly the way it was given to me. No changes, no additions. This is their account. I want to start with Bobby. Bobby is Nigerian. He's been living in the UAE for over 25 years. And he is one of the warmest, most easygoing people I have ever met in my life. I live on the Dubai side of the Dubai-Sharjah border. Bobby lives just across that line. Literally neighbors. 2 different emirates, close enough to walk to each other. One evening in December, we were sitting out near that border together. Cool air, no crowd, just us and the open night. Bobby started talking about Nigeria, about black magic. I'd heard things, but I was curious, so I asked him flat out, "Bobby, does this stuff actually happen? Is any of it real?" He smiled, that quiet smile he had. Then he said, "Give me your right hand." I did. He held it. Then, "Close your eyes. Keep them closed." I kept them closed for about 2 minutes, then opened them. I opened my eyes, and the Sahara Center, a massive shopping mall that had been sitting directly in front of us the entire evening, was gone. Just gone. I looked left, I looked right. Everything else was exactly where it should be. The road, the street lights, the border crossing in the distance. But that building vanished, like it had never existed. I won't lie to you, I was scared. Bobby felt it. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Relax, it's an illusion. Close your eyes again. When you open them, everything will be back." He kept his hand on mine. I closed my eyes, took a breath, then opened them. The mall was there, right where it had always been. I sat there for a moment, just processing. Then I looked at Bobby and asked, "Are you some kind of witch doctor?" He smiled again. "You could call me a low-level one. What I just showed you, that's the most basic thing I know, beginner level." I told him I didn't believe that. Then he explained. He told me that in Nigeria and across much of West Africa, there are 4 recognized tiers of traditional practitioners, 4 levels, and they are not equal. The lowest is called Tanel, 4th class. These are the people doing small tricks at village gatherings, minor problems, minor solutions. Think of them as the entry point. Above them, Umne, 3rd class. These practitioners lead ceremonies, religious rituals, voodoo practices. They have real working knowledge of dark arts. Above them, Puna, second class, and this is where it gets dangerous. These practitioners curse people to death. They bind powerful demonic entities and force them into service. These are not folk healers. These are weapons. And at the top, Noah, first class, the Grand Masters, soul-binding magic, mirror imprisonment spells, jinn warfare, the highest and most complex forms of dark knowledge that exist within that tradition. They serve as the chief practitioners, the commanders for their clans. Even within the Noah tier, there are two levels, a standard Noah and an experienced Noah. The most experienced almost always come from indigenous tribal bloodlines. Bobby told me he had been a Tanel, a fourth-level practitioner. He had ambitions to go higher, real ambitions, but something happened to him, something so disturbing, so far outside what he was prepared for, that he walked away from all of it, packed his life, left Nigeria, came here. I told him, if you're willing to share that, I'd like to write it down. He agreed. But before I get to Bobby's personal story, I need to give you some context, because what he witnessed didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened inside a specific conflict, a war that had been burning for generations. Nigeria has over 300 ethnic groups. 3 of them dominate. The Hausa in the north, roughly 31% of the population, the Yoruba in the west, about 16%, and the Igbo in the east, around 15%. Bobby is Igbo. He's also Christian. His hometown is in the western region, Yoruba territory, which means the Igbo community there are the minority. And minorities in that context, historically, have not been treated well. In whatever region you're in, whoever holds the majority holds the power. And wherever power is held without accountability, the minority suffers. That dynamic has been burning in Nigeria for generations. In 1967, it boiled over into a full civil war. One of the central causes, ethnic conflict. And underneath all of that, threaded through every single layer of it, was black magic. Because each group, the Hausa, the Yoruba, the Igbo, possessed their own traditions, their own knowledge, their own practitioners, and throughout history, they have used that knowledge against each other. Bobby told me the events he witnessed began in the late 1980s. That's where this story starts. The Igbo community in Bobby's area had had enough. The Yoruba majority had been pressing down on them for years. Discrimination, dominance, the slow, grinding weight of being outnumbered in your own neighborhood. And the Igbo knew they couldn't fight back with numbers, so they decided to fight back with something else. They went to their chief practitioner. I'm gonna use a fictitious name to protect his identity. We'll call him Kevin. Kevin was a Noah, first class, the highest level. He was the chief of the Igbo community's spiritual defense. If something went wrong, if something needed to be done, Kevin was the man you went to. So the Igbo elders went to Kevin and said, "Enough, do something, we can't take this anymore." Kevin told them, "Give me 1 day." The next morning, he called everyone back together. "I'm going to send blood-feeding entities against them, demonic jinn, entities that drain the human body of blood. The targets will weaken slowly, they'll die of blood loss, and no one will be able to explain why." To make this happen, Kevin needed a ritual. The night of the ritual, Kevin dressed in ceremonial clothing. In the courtyard of his home, he and his 12 disciples gathered around a goat. In 3 plates were placed in front of the animal. 1 held red powder, 1 a glass bottle filled with liquid. Nobody was ever told what kind. The 3rd plate was left completely empty. Kevin's disciples began circling the goat. Slow, deliberate, 2 feet moving in rhythm, a human clock rotating around that animal. Kevin dipped into the red powder, pressed it along the goat's body, chanting the whole time. Then he took a mouthful from that glass bottle and sprayed it, a fine mist across the goat's coat. This went on for 10 minutes. Then Kevin picked up a blade. Now, here's what I assumed at this point. I assumed he was about to slaughter the goat, use the blood to summon something, and release it on their enemies. That's not what was happening. Bobby explained it differently. The ritual wasn't about calling something in to kill. It was about trapping something, forcing a powerful demonic entity into the body of the goat. Once inside, then the goat would be sacrificed, the entity bound through the act of the kill, the deal sealed in blood. The disciples switched to drums, round, hollowed, struck like percussion. The beat started, and they began calling a single word over and over and over. The word translates to come. At some point during the chanting, the goat changed. It stopped moving, not because it was tied down, no rope, no restraint. It just stopped, frozen in place, like something invisible had reached down and locked it there. Then it screamed. Not a goat sound. Bobby was very specific about this. Whatever came out of that animal, it was not a sound a goat makes. It was guttural, furious, the sound of something ancient and enraged that had just been trapped against its will. The Igbo elders cheered. And I want you to sit with that detail for a second. They cheered. Because for them, this was just how things worked. A possessed animal screaming in their courtyard was cause for celebration. The idea of it didn't frighten them, it relieved them. Think about what that tells you about the world Bobby grew up in. Kevin brought the blade down. One strike. The goat's head separated from its body. The scream that followed, Bobby said it shook the walls of the building. That was the entity. That was the jinn screaming as it was killed inside that body. One of Kevin's disciples collected the blood in a clay pot. The severed head was placed on that third empty plate. Kevin took both into his private ritual room. And later, the community learned what had actually happened in there the night before. Kevin had already made contact with a powerful, blood-feeding jinn before the ritual even started. He had negotiated a contract. The jinn wanted two things. First, Kevin had to kill the jinn's own enemy, another entity, a score it needed to settle. Second, it wanted to consume that enemy, fresh blood, the head. The deal was complete. And in the weeks that followed, members of the Yoruba community began dying. Unexplained blood loss, healthy people, no diagnosis, no reason, just gone. The Yoruba figured it out, and they didn't hesitate. They brought in an elder, an experienced indigenous Yoruba Noah, a grandmaster from outside the region. I'll refer to him as the Yoruba elder. He had a plan, but it required something that, even among practitioners of dark arts, is considered extreme: a voluntary human sacrifice. Among the Yoruba, there exists a tradition of willing self-sacrifice for the benefit of the group, not forced, chosen. Bobby compared it to a soldier walking into certain death for a mission. The person chooses it, believes in it, goes willingly. Someone volunteered. The Yoruba elder waited for a solar eclipse. On that day, Using the energy of the eclipse and the life of the willing sacrifice, he performed a ritual, and through that ritual, he released 3 powerful jinn upon the Igbo community. But these weren't ordinary jinn. These 3 practiced something called Adama magic, and I need you to understand what that means, because it's the reason this situation became so catastrophic. Around the 1700s, somewhere in West Africa, a woman was born. Her name was Adama. Some say she came from royalty, others say she was born into poverty. What everyone agreed on, she was brilliant, she was striking, and she was dangerous. Adama spent her life doing social work, specifically around women's rights, and the enemies she made in doing that work eventually drove her towards something darker. She began studying black magic. She became exceptionally skilled, but her specialty, what she became truly known for, was a single specific ability. She could make herself completely undetectable. Not invisible, not just hidden, gone. No energy, no presence, no trace, not even to other entities, like she had stepped outside of existence itself. There, one moment, then nothing, not even a shadow of a shadow. During her lifetime, she enslaved 3 jinn and used them as her instruments. When she died, they were freed. And now, through a contract with the Yoruba elder, those 3 free, ancient, enormously powerful entities had a new assignment: kill the Igbo. Here's why this was so catastrophic. These 3 jinn were nomads, social outcasts even within their own kind. No alliances, no community, no one who would come looking for them. And whenever another entity tried to pursue them or fight them, they vanished. Adama's technique, gone in an instant, untraceable, unkillable. And their method? They entered dreams. The first to go was Kevin. One morning, without warning, he began vomiting blood. Bobby heard the news and ran with the others to Kevin's home. When they arrived, the courtyard was covered in blood. Kevin was still on his feet, barely, still vomiting, bright red, fresh, like something inside him had simply ruptured and was draining out. They tried to go to him. Kevin held up his hand. "Stay back. None of you can save me. I'm about to die." They didn't accept that. They grabbed him anyway, carried him toward the hospital. He didn't make it. The grief that hit the Igbo community was immediate and total. Kevin wasn't just their protector, he was their identity, their shield, the person everyone went to when everything else failed. And now, he was gone. 2 days later, 3 young Igbo men died the same way. Blood, rapid, violent, identical. Before each of them lost consciousness, they managed to say the same thing. They had all had the same dream. In the dream, they were at a feast, a gathering. They sat down and they ate meat. A lot of it. They woke up with stomach pain. The pain grew. Then came the blood. Think about that. 3 separate people, same dream, same sequence, same death. These jinn were entering the dream state and feeding their targets cursed meat. And once that meat was consumed inside the dream, the damage was real, physical, irreversible. The Yoruba elder had already told his community the plan: 3 deaths per night, every night, until the Igbo were gone. With 7 dead, including Kevin, the Igbo community went searching. They found a Noah from a neighboring area, experienced, respected. I'll call him Henry. Henry came, he listened to everything, then he sat down, closed his eyes, went completely still. Bobby said he looked like he had fallen asleep sitting upright. When Henry opened his eyes, he stood, and he delivered his assessment. The Yoruba brought in an indigenous Grand Master. He performed a sacrifice ritual during a solar eclipse. He released 3 nomadic jinn who practice Adama's vanishing technique. He paused. These entities cannot be caught. They cannot be tracked. If you send something after them, they disappear before it arrives, and then they are simply gone. The room was silent. They enter the dream state. They force their targets to consume cursed meat. Death follows within hours. Another pause. Tonight, 3 more of your people are scheduled to die. He looked at the community. Don't sleep. If you stay awake, you may survive tonight. Give me time. I need to think. Henry left. That night, nobody slept. They stayed up. They watched each other. They kept lights on. They kept talking. And still, at some point in the early hours of the morning, 3 more young men died. Before losing consciousness, each of them said the same thing. They hadn't fallen asleep, they had been awake, and then something was just there. Something they couldn't see, couldn't move away from. It held them in place, forced something into their mouths. They couldn't scream, couldn't lift their arms. And then the meat was inside them. And then the pain started. 7 dead had become 10. Henry was called back. He saw the 3 new bodies. He went quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I know what needs to be done, but it won't be easy." He told them about a legendary Noah named Go, a master among masters, someone who had practiced things that other Noahs were afraid to even think about. Among his abilities, he could bind the souls of the dead, direct them, use them. The problem, Go had been dead for generations. So had his son, his grandson, his great-grandson. Go's living descendants existed, but they were far away, and there was no guarantee they had inherited his level of mastery. So Henry said, "I'm going to bring Go back myself." He called it the magic of 4 ancestors. Here's how it works. You can't just call for Go directly. The dead don't respond that way. You have to build a chain, a ladder of spirits. First, you summon the spirit of Go's great-great-grandson. That spirit becomes the vessel through which Go's great-grandson can arrive. That arrival creates the bridge for Go's grandson, and through the grandson, Go himself can come. 4 generations, 4 spirits, summoned in sequence, each one carrying the weight of the next. Henry gathered 5 additional experienced practitioners. He brought specific materials: 4 doves, bird feathers, 4 human skulls, colored powder, candles. He told the community what the skulls were. His own ancestors, 4 generations of his own bloodline, brought specifically for this purpose, because the ritual requires actual remains of a known lineage to anchor the summoning. You can't fake that. You can't substitute it. At exactly noon, when the sun was directly overhead, Henry slaughtered the 4 doves. He collected the blood separately, 4 birds, 4 portions. He poured each bird's blood over one skull, set them in the sun to dry. While they dried, he burned the bird feathers to ash, mixed that ash with powder and a small amount of water, creating something dark and thick, like ink. When the skulls dried, he used his finger to write on each one, slow, careful, deliberate. Then he dried them again. Then he and his 5 colleagues carried the skulls into Kevin's ritual room and began a ceremony that lasted from early afternoon until sunset. Bobby watched from a distance. The whole community waited. When Henry emerged, he called everyone together. "Go back inside, all of you. Do not enter this courtyard for any reason. What's about to happen will feel like a storm. It will look like the world is tearing apart." He looked at them. "Stay inside. Whatever you hear, stay inside." Henry went back into the courtyard. He spread a cloth on the ground, arranged the 4 skulls in a line, drew a straight mark in colored powder in front of each one, set candles along those marks, lit every single one. Then he and his 5 colleagues sat in a line, facing the skulls, and began to chant, hour after hour. Bobby watched from the shadows at the edge of the courtyard. He couldn't make out the words, but the sound of it. He said it was unlike anything he had ever heard before. Low, rhythmic, like something being dragged out of the ground slowly against its will. Then the wind started. Not a breeze, wind, like the atmosphere itself had turned hostile, like the air was reacting to something being pulled against its nature. The candles kept burning. Bobby said that specifically, full flames, that kind of wind, still burning. Then the first row of candles went out, all at once. A light appeared, moving. It entered the first skull. All 6 practitioners stood simultaneously, and they began singing, one line in unison, over and over, "Bring your father, bring your father." After a few moments, the light left the first skull and disappeared. Seconds passed. The second row of candles went out. A second light entered the second skull. The singing again, same line, the light left. Third row, third skull, same sequence. Then, the fourth row. But this time, 4 lights came at once, one for each skull. All 4 entered simultaneously. The practitioners stood, and the chant changed. "Great One, save us, save us." The skulls began to speak. Bobby was watching from the shadows when it happened. He heard it. 4 voices, coming from 4 human skulls in an open courtyard, spoke out loud. "How dare you disturb us?" Henry stepped forward. He bowed his head. "Forgive us. We are desperate. We are dying. There was no other path." What followed was a long conversation Bobby couldn't fully hear, but Henry told him everything afterward. He had explained everything to Go, the 3 nomadic jinn, the Adama technique, the dream killings. He asked Go for a solution. Go listened. Then he gave one answer: mirror magic. He told Henry exactly how it was done. Then he said one more thing. "Tonight, 3 more of your people will be targeted. Put them in water. These jinn cannot work through water. Have them stay submerged all night. They'll survive until morning." The 4 lights rose from the 4 skulls and were gone. The wind died. The courtyard went quiet. Henry told the community what Go had said. 3 young men were identified, the most likely targets for that night. They were sent to a nearby pond. They stayed in that water until sunrise. They survived. The next afternoon, Henry returned, alone, carrying 3 mirrors. He set up in Kevin's courtyard and ran an extended ceremony from late afternoon until sundown. Bobby described it as a form of ritual prayer, deeply specific, and didn't go into further detail. When the sun went down, Henry drew a circle on the ground and sat inside it. The 3 mirrors were placed in front of him. He began chanting. And then 3 lights appeared, fast, moving directly toward the mirrors. 1 light entered each mirror. Henry picked up a blade and drove it into the first mirror. Bobby said the sound was like a lightning strike at close range. Not a crack, not a shatter, a scream. A single, massive, sustained scream that hit everyone within earshot like a physical wave. People covered their ears. Bobby said it felt like his eardrums were going to rupture from the inside. Henry drove the blade into the second mirror. Another scream, same force. Third mirror, third scream. Then, silence. Henry stood up. He turned to the community gathered at the edges of the courtyard. "It's done. The magic is broken. You're free." That was the single most violent episode in the conflict between the Igbo and Yoruba in Bobby's region, but not the last. Bobby told me the war continued, both sides striking, both sides suffering, for years after that. He said it still continues, in some form today. And that's why he left. He walked away from the craft, from Nigeria, from the entire world he had been born into. He came to the UAE, built a quiet life, and became the warm, laughing man who showed me a magic trick by a border crossing one December evening. A shopping mall disappeared in front of my eyes. I still don't have an explanation for that. Make of that what you will. That's where this first account ends. Kevin, the most powerful practitioner in his community, was killed through a dream. 3 nomadic entities, trained by a woman dead for 3 centuries, moved through the night, undetectable by anything living or otherwise. And the only thing that stopped them was the voice of a dead man speaking through a skull, giving instructions from the other side. Make of that what you will. All right, let's keep going. The next account comes from a listener based in Oman, and he's not telling his own story. He's telling the story of a coworker, a man named Saif from Bangladesh. A man who passed a graveyard one evening on a bicycle and picked up something he never asked for, and carried it with him for the rest of his life. Stay with me on this one, because it starts small, ordinary, and ends somewhere you won't expect. Here's what happened. I came to Oman in 2012 for work. At my company, there was another Bangladeshi worker. His name was Saif. His hometown was in the Noakhali district back home. We worked the same shift, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. After hours, we'd sit outside, eat, and talk. We got close fast. Less like friends, more like brothers. One night, Saif told me he had something he'd never told anyone, something from his life back in Bangladesh. He wanted to get it out. I told him I was listening. Before I tell you what he said, let me give you the geography of where he grew up, because it matters. Half an hour on foot from his house to the market, 15 minutes by bicycle, and exactly halfway, right in the middle of that road, was a cremation ground, a place where the Hindu community in that area conducted their funeral rites. At the edge of that cremation ground stood a massive banyan tree, old, wide, the kind of tree that feels like it's watching. The road ran right alongside it. You had to pass it. There was no other way. Saif was young when this happened. One afternoon, between the late afternoon prayer and sunset, his family sent him to the market on the family bicycle. He picked up what was needed. He started home. He reached the cremation ground, and the bicycle got heavy. Now, Saif knew exactly what a loaded bike felt like. He'd ridden his whole life. Solo, the bike is light. Someone sitting behind you, the bike shifts. It pulls differently. You feel the weight immediately. And right at the moment he passed that banyan tree, the bike shifted. Like someone had sat down behind him on the back rack. He looked back. Nobody there. He kept pedaling. The resistance didn't go away. The bike moved, but wrong, sluggish, like he was dragging something enormous uphill, even though the road was completely flat. His legs were burning, his lungs were burning. He pushed, and the bike barely responded. He didn't stop. He kept going. Then he reached his front gate, and the bike went light again. Between one pedal stroke and the next, the weight was gone. No sound, no shadow. When he turned to look, nothing behind him but the empty road. He went inside and told his mother what had happened. She recited Quranic verses over him and blew on his face and hands in the way older women from that region do for protection. That night, nothing else happened. Sometime later, Saif was in bed. Night, mosquito net up, room dark. He noticed something in the corner of the net, a small glow, faint, moving like a firefly, except it wasn't. It moved with intention, like something that knew exactly where it was going, and it was moving toward him. Then the smell hit, the whole room filled with it, a fragrance unlike anything that belonged in a closed bedroom in rural Bangladesh in the middle of the night. Not perfume, not incense, something else entirely, something that had no business being there. Saif couldn't speak, couldn't move. He tried to scream. Eventually, it came out. His family came running. They came into the room. They looked around. Nothing there. But the smell, every single person who walked into that room stopped, and they all said the same thing. What is that? It lingered for a while. Prayers were said. Eventually, it faded. But from that point forward, something changed for Saif. Whenever he was alone, walking somewhere, sitting by himself in a quiet room, he'd catch that same fragrance again, unmistakable, and the moment it reached him, he knew. Something was close. His body would go heavy, his hair would rise, the same pressure, the same presence, no form, no sound, just there. It happened again and again, for years. He never saw anything, but he always knew when it arrived. Eventually, Saif left Bangladesh. He came to Oman for work, and it came with him. New country, different continent, years later, the fragrance still arrived without warning. Same smell, same heaviness, same raised hair. Whatever had attached itself to him at that cremation ground had not let go. It had simply traveled. Then, one night in Oman, Saif was outside. Low light, he caught the smell. His body went stiff. And then he saw something. About 15 to 20 feet ahead of him, a shape, feminine, moving toward him. He stood there and watched it close the distance. 10 feet, maybe 12. Then it stepped off the path and walked into a bush. Just walked into the brush and was gone. Saif told me what happened next slowly, like it still surprised him even as he said it. He said he made a decision in that moment. He was tired of being afraid, tired of feeling it without ever seeing it, tired of years of not knowing. So he took out his phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked straight toward that bush. He pushed through. The area was completely empty. No one, nothing. Bare ground, no footprints, no broken branches, no sign that anything had just passed through. He stood in that space for a long moment. Then he went back to his room. He never told anyone in Oman. He never went looking for answers. The only person he ever told was me. That's where Saif's account ends. Whatever attached itself to him at that cremation ground in Bangladesh, it made the journey to Oman. It moved through his sleep, through his daily life, through a different continent entirely. He never found out what it was. He never found a way to make it stop. He just learned to recognize the smell. Make of that what you will. Samira told me she never wanted to share this story. She said it felt like something heavy sitting inside her chest, something she had carried for years without being able to put down. And finally, she decided someone else needed to know. So she told me, and I'm telling you. Samira's husband had been working abroad. When he came home, it was because both of his parents had passed away in close succession. The family home was large, 2 stories, a full staff, indoor help, a laundress, a tailor, a security guard rotating shifts at the gate. Samira and her husband had everything they needed, materially at least. Then one night, 5 men in masks came through the gate. They tied up the security guard, broke through the front door, bound Samira and her husband, and took everything. The indoor staff had already left for the night. The guard on duty, the man whose entire job was to stop exactly this, did nothing. No shout, no struggle, nothing. Samira was 6 months pregnant. The trauma hit her immediately. She fell into a deep depression. Eventually, she went to stay with her parents just to breathe. When she came back, steadier, she sat her husband down. "I think one of our own people was involved." He listened carefully. She laid it out. The robbery happened in the exact window when the indoor staff was gone, and the security guard, the man at the gate, hadn't done a single thing to slow 5 armed intruders. Not one thing. She had the guard brought in, asked him questions, watched him. He stumbled. His answers didn't hold together. She told her husband, "Let him go. He was part of it, I'm certain." Her husband wasn't fully convinced, but he trusted her. The guard was dismissed. A new one was hired, and life resumed, or tried to. Samira was now 8 months pregnant and struggling physically. She needed someone around the clock. She asked the new guard to put the word out. 2 days later, he came to her. "There's a young woman outside, man. She says she's willing to stay full-time. Bring her in." The young woman who walked through Samira's door was not what she expected. She was strikingly beautiful, well-dressed, composed. Her name was Fariha. She was 17, no ID, which for that era and that age wasn't unusual. Samira hired her on the spot, and what followed felt like a miracle. Fariha anticipated needs before Samira could voice them. She was there at 3 a.m. if the lights came on. She managed everything. Samira praised her to anyone who would listen. She doubled Fariha's salary within weeks, afraid that if the girl had any reason to leave, she'd lose the only thing holding the household together. Then things began to shift. Samira started having dreams. Not regular nightmares. Every night, a cemetery, surrounded by the dead, bodies moving toward her, figures reaching, the room contracting around her like it was closing in. She'd wake up screaming. Not once, not a phase, every single night. She started taking medication just to sleep. Even medicated, she'd jolt awake, heart pounding, convinced the figures were still in the room with her. Then came the delivery. The ultrasound, right up until the final days, showed a completely healthy baby. The baby was born dead, and not stillborn in the way doctors have language for. The baby's bones, internally, were described as shattered, crushed, as if tremendous pressure had been applied from the inside out. The doctors formed a board. They reviewed everything. They came back with nothing. Samira never held her child. Her family kept the baby's face from her. The burial was handled quickly. They told her it was better not to see. She never got to say goodbye. And from that point forward, the nightmares got worse. Weeks later, Samira was handling her own clothing when she felt something hard stitched into the fabric. She had it cut out, a talisman sewn directly into the seam. She called in the laundress, then the tailor, questioned both of them. Both were visibly shaken. Samira's husband was deteriorating. A man who had never taken unplanned time off from work was now sleeping until midday, missing days. His energy was gone. His personality was dimming. Then one night, Samira had a dream. A woman, disfigured, burned face open, singing, moving toward Samira's husband, reaching for him, and Samira's husband, paralyzed, couldn't get away. He looked back at Samira and made a sign with his hand, a symbol, deliberate, something she recognized as dark, a sigil of some kind. She wouldn't describe it further. She only said, if you searched it, you'd understand what it meant. She woke up screaming. Her husband was beside her. She told him the dream. He went quiet. Then he started to cry. He told her he'd been having the same dream, the same burned woman, the same paralysis, the same symbol appearing as a threat. For 3 months, he'd never told her because Samira's sister Emmy had once advised against sharing bad dreams with others. They sat together until the early morning prayer. Her husband got up to perform his ablution, went to the kitchen for water, and the ceiling fan above Samira's bed fell directly onto the mattress where she had been lying. Running at full speed, she had shifted slightly in the seconds before it dropped. That shift, that small, unremarkable movement, is the only reason she was alive. Samira's sister Emmy had been trying for a long time to bring in a spiritual healer. Samira had always refused, but Emmy kept pushing, and one day she arrived at the house with a woman, older, calm. The woman looked at Samira in the doorway and stopped dead. She stared, not rudely, like she was processing something she hadn't anticipated. Then she came inside, sat down, and, without being asked, said, "You have serious black magic on you. If you don't address this, someone in your household is going to die." Samira told her to leave, firmly, politely. She said she was grieving, she was managing, she did not need more weight placed on her. The woman stood, looked at Samira one more time. "When you're ready, find me." And she left. Samira didn't call her back. One evening, Samira was on the roof, coffee in hand, watching the sky. She saw her husband near the edge of the roof, eyes closed, completely still. She called to him. He didn't respond. He raised one hand and began making the same symbol from the dream, slow, deliberate, like he wasn't fully there. Then he opened his eyes, looked directly at her, made the symbol again, and stepped off the edge. 6 stories. Samira lost consciousness. When she came around, she was in her room. Her sister Emmy was beside her. The news was delivered quietly, the kind of quiet that people use when the words themselves could break someone. Her husband was gone. Eventually, Samira returned to the house. She needed to be around his things, his clothes, the spaces that still held his shape. Fariha was there, still working, cooking when Samira walked in. "Make me a coffee, please. I'm going to rest." She started toward the sitting room, and from the kitchen, she heard something, a voice, low, careful, like someone having a conversation they didn't want overheard. It stopped when Samira appeared. Fariha said she had been singing to herself. Samira let it go. Then, days later, she went up to the roof. She came up quietly, and she saw Fariha standing with someone, a man she didn't recognize. And she heard Fariha say, clearly, without hesitation, Her husband's dead. Now it's her turn. When she goes, my revenge will be complete. Fariha grabbed Fariha by the hair, pulled her inside, called her brother and Emi. They came immediately. When they confronted Fariha, threatened to call the police, she broke. She started crying. Then she started confessing. She led them through the house, room by room, pulled talismans out of pillowcases, from under the mattress, from inside the wardrobe, from gaps in the floor. Then she told them what she had put in the coffee: ground bone, mixed in, from a corpse. The mug dropped from Samira's hands. Fariha kept talking. She said she had done this to all of them, over time, through the food, through the drinks, that she was responsible for the baby, for the husband, and then she said why. She was the daughter of the security guard Samira had dismissed after the robbery, the one Samira had suspected of working with the intruders. After being let go under that suspicion, her father had never found work again. The shame followed him everywhere. He couldn't provide for his children, and one day he died by suicide. The room went completely silent. Fariha looked at Samira. Was I supposed to just let that go? Samira had no answer. She stood there in her own house, surrounded by everything she had lost, and she had no answer. Fariha was removed from the property. A religious scholar was brought in. Quranic recitation was performed throughout every room of the house. Charitable giving was made in the names of the dead. The scholar declared the house clean. Samira has carried this story for years, and the question she still lives with, the one she told me she can't shake, isn't whether black magic is real. She's long past that. The question is simpler. What if they had been wrong about the guard? What if the suspicion, however reasonable it seemed, had been checked more carefully before it destroyed a man's life? She doesn't know. She may never know. That's where this account ends. Fariha entered Samira's home as a caretaker, spent months earning total trust, was praised publicly and given raises, all while systematically working to kill every member of that household, one by one. The baby died with no medical explanation. The husband walked off a 6-story roof in a trance-like state. And the only thing that broke the situation open was Samira overhearing a conversation she was never supposed to hear. Make of that what you will. If you've experienced something that couldn't be explained, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Stay safe out there.